What's troubling about the slow jobless rate is the rapid rate of wage inflation. That's now running at 4.5%. Chances are, if the economy continues to grow at a rate of roughly 2% or faster, we are going to see a further tightening of the labor market, and with that, even faster wage growth, and that's going to be bad news for inflation.
Recently, economist John Lonsky told Fox Business that, the viewers should be very concerned about Americans making more money for their hard work. I mean, it's a real problem in America. Workers be making too much money, yo. I mean, imagine saying that with a straight face. Now, last week, Biden announced 2 small measures to help Americans save money. I'm gonna be completely honest, one of them is good. One of them seems like complete BS because there's no specificity and it's totally vague. So he said that he's going to start a so-called strike force on unfair and illegal pricing in order to really do something about inflation. That's the one where I think it's just BS meant to make him look good, but the other one isn't BS. So he has decided to cap credit card late fees at $8. So that's something specific, that's something that's real, that's something that will help Americans. So I will give him credit for that. Now, those actions have unleashed the ire of conservative media, and I think it's worth watching some of the hysteria. Let's take a look.
Actually, the market is the strike force. But if Biden is interested in doing this, you could look at all the issues that we're talking about in terms of where he's polling badly. Why is there no strike force to go after the border?
I was reading a piece this morning about how capitalism is the defining characteristic that sets this country apart from all of our enemies, all of our big enemies, right?
Right.
So if you squash capitalism, you're going to put that into remission, which is not a great idea, probably.
Well, think about who's always paying late fees. They're probably the kind of folks that would vote for Democrats. This is a way of motivating them to go out and vote. And they're looking at every conceivable way to buy a vote. The lessons of history is that competition, markets allocate resources, set prices much better than ministries. I mean, if you want to have the government setting prices, then let's resurrect the old Soviet Union.
And this morning, he's talking about late fees, and he's talking about corporate America, and it's companies' fault that people are facing inflation. Is this all sort of a preamble to the State of the Union on Thursday?
A lot of mainstream media don't give you honest news. We do. You know why? Because of you. Paid membership on YouTube makes all the difference. Hit the join button below and you become the hero that sustains us.
Okay, number one, attacking Americans who are relying on credit cards, taking out debt in order to make ends meet, like making fun of them and mocking them is like, oh, what kind of people tend to vote for Democrats? A lot of Americans are living in poverty. A lot of Americans, unfortunately, are not making enough money to be able to cover all of their bills. A lot of Americans, according to the Federal Reserve, are unable to afford even a $400 emergency, nearly 50% in fact. And so mocking them or looking down your nose at them, not the way to go. I think it's pretty gross. But aside from that, I just wanna know, Biden's strike force to combat inflation is nothing. There's nothing there, okay? They put out a press release. It had no specificity. It was just meant to give a little nod to people who are concerned about inflation without actually proposing anything specific to deal with inflation. So this notion that the Biden administration is looking to engage in price fixing is laughable. And to be honest with you, if the Biden administration was engaging in that, I would criticize them because price fixing is not going to bode well for our economy. It tends to backfire. But instead of being more annoyed with the obvious stunt, the super low effort stunt of putting out a press release that has no specificity about what the strike force would do, they're just making things up. But I mean, I guess that's what we should expect. Anyway, here's how little we know about the strike force. These are all the details we have. Because it's not a thing, it's not gonna be a thing. And again, it was just a publicity stunt. The strike force will strengthen interagency efforts to root out and stop illegal corporate behavior that hikes prices on American families through anti-competitive, unfair, deceptive, or fraudulent business practices. Okay, cool, how? what are you gonna do? They don't specify. Let's read more. FTC Chair Lina Khan announced to reporters that the strike force builds on the FTC's far-reaching work to promote competition and tackle unlawful business practices that are inflating costs for Americans. So Lina Khan and the FTC focuses on enforcing antitrust laws to ensure that we don't have monopolies in the country. That's a good thing. Do the fine people over at Fox Business want monopolies in the country? Do they want to give consumers even less options than they already have? Is that a good thing? Is that what they want? If that's the case, then they should just say it. They should just say that they want to support a system in which companies monopolize and American consumers have no other options, and they're charged all sorts of exorbitant prices for products that they would probably pay lower prices for if there was more competition in the market. But anyway, let's continue. The strike force will be co-chaired by the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission, and it's gonna do nothing. Again, I can't reiterate enough, it is a publicity stunt. It was meant to put something out there just before the State of the Union address to let Americans who are struggling economically, a lot of Americans who are struggling economically, know that Biden's looking out for them without really specifying how and what he would do. But the strike force allegedly will focus on the following sectors of the economy. Like, this is why it's so laughable, because it's so broad, it's so vague. It's gonna focus on prescription drugs and healthcare. Right, so the federal government, meaning the executive branch, is going to unilaterally combat prescription drug prices in healthcare, right? We saw how that played out when Congress was trying to pass a bill allowing for Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Who's dumb enough to think that Biden is going to unilaterally do something about high pharmaceutical drug prices? Like, you'd have to be the most gullible person on the planet to think he's gonna do that. But let me continue. The strike force is gonna combat, bad behavior in the industry as it pertains to food and groceries, housing, and financial services. Okay. As for the cap on credit card late fees, the actual thing that we should be giving Biden credit for, because it's specific, on Tuesday, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau finalized a rule to slash credit card late fees from the current average of $32 down to $8, saving consumers $10 billion a year, or an average savings of $220 per year for the more than 45 million people who are charged these late fees annually. That giant douchebag on Fox Business totally insulted 45 million Americans. Yeah, he's so much better than them. Oh, what kind of person uses credit cards and pays late fees? So gross. Anyway, conservative media opposes the change, by the way, specifically the change that would cap credit card late fees. And so does Senator Tim Scott, of course he does, apparently because he has stated that he will push the Senate to block it. He's gonna fight real hard to ensure that Americans who use credit cards and get charged late fees get charged the highest possible late fee that the credit card companies want to charge. Good job, Senator Scott. What a patriotic American, really looking out for your fellow constituents. Anyway, Scott of South Carolina said the new cap will shift costs, this is so fun, shift costs to consumers who pay on time and encourage payment delinquency. It will decrease the availability of credit card products for those who need it most, raise rates for many borrowers who carry a balance but pay on time. Wait, hold on, let's stop for a second. I'm one of those credit card users who, I like my perks, I like credit card. Who doesn't like credit card perks? So instead of using my checking account, when I buy things, I'll usually use my credit card because I get points. And then before I even get the bill, I pay it in full. You know why I do that? Because I don't want to pay the credit card fees. I don't want to pay a late fee. I don't want to pay interest. So I'm just trying to understand. Tim Scott is worried that if the Biden administration caps credit card late fees to $8, well, that'll mean that credit card companies will, and I'm using his wording here, raise rates for many borrowers who carry a balance but pay on time. He thinks that it's going to increase the likelihood of late payments across the board. That like Americans are gonna be like, you know what? I'm willing to pay an extra $8 for no apparent reason, so I'm just gonna be late in paying my credit card off or paying the credit card payment that's expected of me. It's just a really lame way to provide cover for what Tim Scott is really trying to say here. That credit card companies should be able to charge you as much as they want for late fees, even if it's crushing desperate Americans who can't make ends meet with their low pay, so they have no choice but to rely on credit cards. It seems like there's a root problem here that senators like Tim Scott should be more focused on instead of ensuring that there's as much punishment as possible for people who might miss a credit card payment. And if credit cards stop offering perks as a result of this, I'd just stop using credit cards and I'd go back to, using my checking account. I'm sure they're not gonna want that, and we'll have the market decide, right? The market's so wonderful. The market decides everything. So why don't they allow that to happen? So anyway, according to Open Secrets, Tim Scott has taken nearly $1 million from the credit card industry or individuals and PACs in the commercial banking industry. I'll give you the exact number. It's $840,170. It's a lot of money. So I would venture to say that he's less concerned about people who pay their credit cards on time having their interest rates increased than he is about, ensuring that his corporate donors, his banker buddies, are getting a good return on their investment. And then here's why Scott's donors are upset. The New York Times reported that credit card late fees have become a major profit source for credit card issuers, generating more than $14 billion in 2022 alone. According to the Times, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau also indicated that credit card issuers have been exploiting a loophole in the 2010 Federal Reserve rule that allowed credit card issuers to adjust late fees based on inflation and raise their fees far beyond the actual costs they incur when payments arrive late. So, look, you might be in favor of keeping the high late fees. And if you are, that's fine, go ahead. I mean, go ahead and support that if you think that's a great idea. But what you have to be honest about is that these lawmakers who are against capping the late fees are not at all economic populists, people who actually care about suffering Americans who can't make ends meet with their brutally low pay. They don't care about these people at all. These politicians don't care at all. And the thing that gets under my skin the most is when they use rhetoric that makes it appear as though they care about ordinary people. If you care about ordinary people, then you should protect them from bad behavior carried out by major industries, whether it be the banking industry, the rail industry, the list goes on and on and on. All we've seen from them is deregulation, tax subsidies for these businesses, all sorts of perks and goodies that they take advantage of and then turn around and obviously charge exorbitant fees on ordinary Americans. It's just frustrating. So anytime I hear anyone argue that Republicans are the real economic populists, I can't help but roll my eyes. This is what they're really saying about Americans, American workers, and those who have been victimized by banks for far too long.